I the topic for today is pressure group, and the aim of the class, the aims of the class are to number one, understand the meaning of pressure group. To identify the types of pressure group, identify the features of pressure group, the functions of pressure group, the factors that can aid the effective operation of the pressure group, identify factors working against the success of the pressure group, identify techniques employed by pressure groups to achieve their goals, identify the dangers posed by the activities of the pressure group, and lastly, to identify the difference between pressure group and political parties. So let's start with definition of pressure group. Pressure group can be defined as organized groups which influence government decisions socially or economically without necessarily entering into election activities for the control of government. It can also be defined as a pressure group. It can also be defined as any group of people bound together by some common interest or profession who engage in some activities to influence government policies to their own advantage. So the idea of pressure group is like it's not a political party. Instead, it's like a group formed together, a group of people with common interests, common goals, even similar characteristics. So like they come together with the sole purpose of influencing government decision. Because normally there's the pressure group is there to check the affairs of the government also. So pressure group is they are created majorly to influence the decision of the government to favor the masses. So that's the idea of the pressure group. So we move to the types of pressure group. We have the first one as economic pressure group. Economic, from the word economic, it has to do with mostly manufacturing and trading. So like economic pressure group is a pressure group that is formed by manufacturers or trade associations. For example, we have the National Association of Chamber of Commerce, we have the Industry, Mines and Agriculture, we have Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. So these are groups that are formed for the main reason of like to influence the government decision economically. Because for example, the Chamber of Commerce, there's a way they will affect the government to ensure that everything that has to do with commerce in the commerce which is defined as buying and selling and um, production of goods and services. So all these things has to do with the pressure group such as Nigerian Association of Chamber of Commerce are ensuring that they would affect the decision of the government when it comes to commerce in the country. Also, we have professional or professional pressure group. And this has to do with a group of people that come together, like they come together because of their profession, like they are of the same profession. For example, a pressure group such as Nigerian Medical Association, all of them are coming together as doctors, as medical practitioners, in order to represent the interests of medical practitioners. So a professional or professional pressure group is a collection of people of same profession. We have the religious pressure group. Now, from the word religious, it is actually a group of people that come together based on their beliefs. Based on their beliefs, for example, we have the Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs. These are the ones that represent everything that has to do with Islamic interest in Nigeria. While the Christian Association of Nigeria, they represent everything that has to do with Christianity in Nigeria. So these religious pressure group are the one that influence the decision of the government as regard religion. Let's move to the next one. We have promotional groups. Now, promotional groups are a group of people that they come together for a particular purpose. For example, human rights groups such as JCSF is actually a promotional group. This is an example of a pressure group. A pressure group, example to Red Cross. Red Cross is also a group that comes together for a purpose. So the idea of promotional groups are a group of people that come together just for a purpose. Maybe they create a purpose that okay, we want to alleviate poverty in Nigeria. So that is their sole purpose. So they will ensure that they promote that purpose till they achieve the purpose. So that's the idea of promotional groups. Then we have educational groups. Educational groups is actually a group of people that represents educational interest. Examples of them are ASU, the Academic Staff Union of Universities. They represent the the interest of lecturers in Nigeria. That's what they represent. Why nationalization of Nigerian students, NAS, they represent the interest of students in Nigeria. Then we have the last one, which is the Nigerian Labour Congress. Nigerian Labour Congress is like the umbrella body for everything that has to do with working, like work in Nigeria. Like when we say labor, labor is like everybody that works and like factors of production, land, labor, capital. So labor is like the workers. So Nigeria Labour Congress is the umbrella body of all workers in Nigeria, and it is one of the most viable pressure group in Nigeria because once Nigeria Labour Congress shuts down, it affects the country negatively. So with that being said, let's move to okay, I think the students are here, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Hope you are following. What you say? Hello?
For me, I'm here, but I'm on a bike, so it's kind of noisy. I'm just listening to you. In case I don't reply, I can hear you.
All right, perfect. All right, you can mute yourself. Yeah. All right, thank you. So that is all about the types of pressure group. I just mentioned them: economic pressure group, professional occupational pressure group, religious pressure group, promotional groups, educational groups, and the Nigerian Labour Congress. So these are the types of pressure group. So let's move to the features. When we say features, that means characteristics. Now, one of the sorry, can that person mute the mic? I'm hearing noises. All right, thank you. So features of pressure group. So one of the most interesting feature of pressure group is common interest. That means a pressure group cannot properly function if there is no common interest. Now, what does common interest mean? That means what everybody wants, what everybody agrees on is what they call the common interest of members. So pressure group pressure group actually exists, number one, to protect common interest of the members. That means there has to be a common interest and they will ensure that they work together to ensure that common interest is protected. That is the number one feature. Number two feature, they said to carry out their activities, pressure group depend on contributions from members through levies, donations, and dues. Many of the pressure groups, in almost all pressure groups, they tend to tax themselves, like more like dues, just like I don't know, in churches or fellowship workers, they will tell them to pay a particular due. So that's how pressure group they do their whole thing. They pay dues. They people donate to pressure groups, just like charity organizations. So that is how it is with pressure group. In order to carry out the activities, they need money, and then this money comes from levies, donation, and dues. Now let's move to the third one. Pressure group are well organized because for a pressure group to properly function, they have to be organized. When we say organized, that means they have to have a plan and they have to work towards that plan. They should not be lackadaisical. They shouldn't scatter their activities. No, they should actually work in line with whatever they plan to do. So a
Hello.
pressure group has hello.
Sorry, Taiwo, can you mute yourself?
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Please continue.
Right. And then we have the last one. Because members are bound together by common profession and other interests, pressure group rarely recruit members. So the membership is limited by profession, location, religion, or other common interests. Now, what are we trying to say with this feature? Pressure group, like they said, when it comes to pressure group, it has to do with number one, common interest, number two, similar characteristics. So pressure groups hardly just bring in people, unlike political parties that anybody can join. For pressure group, example of pressure group like National NMA, National Medical Association, or Nigerian Medical Association, one of the two, they only bring in people that are medical practitioners. You can't see an accountant in NMA, definitely not. Also, ICANN, You cannot see ICANN instead of Chartered Accountant of Nigeria. You cannot see a doctor in ICANN. So pressure group is based on a particular factor. Let's say they are all together because of a profession. They will together based on that profession. If it is a location, let's say for example, let's say Hairdresser Association in Abuja. So everybody that is in that pressure group will be hairdressers in Abuja. They won't bring in another hairdresser from Lagos. So that is what this picture is talking about. I hope we understand. I'm moving to the next part now. So we have functions. Yeah, we have functions of pressure group. Now, for my explanation from the onset, number one function of the pressure group is to influence government policies or decisions. Normally, government makes a lot of decisions, but then the pressure group is there to ensure that these decisions favor them. So that is the idea of pressure group. For example, ASU is currently on strike because they want the government to do something. So they are currently influencing the government's decision to do a particular thing. So that is the idea of pressure group. The major function of them is to affect, to influence government policies or decisions. Now let's move to the next one. Pressure group acts as watchdog on the government. Now, when we say watchdog, there's a popular term in government they call checks and balances. Checks and balances is when a particular part of the government checks another particular person so they won't be power drunk. So the idea of pressure group is to check the affairs of the government. That means it will let the government understand they don't have total power. So pressure group is there to watch whatever the government does and correct them when they do wrong. So that is the idea of pressure group. That's the second one. The third one, pressure main aim is to protect the interest of their members. So, like I said, what they all want. Currently, I would still use ASU as the main example. Currently, ASU wants a particular amount to be paid to them, and they also want some other. They're actually asking for some other things. But so they believe that these things they're asking are the interest of the members. So they are standing on it. They want to protect the interest of their members, so they are demanding from government to do this. That's why they're on strike. So that is one of the functions of pressure groups to protect the interest of their members. We have the fourth one. Pressure groups promote economic activities through their effort to realize, promote specific economic interests of their members. Now, what are we talking about? One of like I said in the types of pressure group, we have the economic pressure group. These ones are in charge of ensuring that the anything that has to do with the economy and how it will benefit the economy as it will benefit the masses, benefit the economy. They ensure that the government does it. So pressure group is one of the people that help promote economic activities because they will be able to convince the government to make certain economic decisions that will help the masses. And by doing so, it will improve the economy of the country. So that is why this is one of their functions. Also, pressure group helps to foster the achievement of democracy. Remember, one of the pillar of democracy is people. One of the pillar of democracy is fundamental human rights. So, and we have a lot of rights, freedom of speech, freedom of association, all these things. So, pressure groups ensures that these rights are respected. So in doing that, they helps to improve democracy because democracy is built on human rights, democracy is built on people. So if the pressure group are helping to improve human rights, they are also helping us to achieve democracy. And lastly, pressure group helps to guide government in the formulation of policy. Yeah, now what does that mean? If government wants to make certain decisions, let's say for example, they want to make certain decisions as regards the universities, they can't do it without calling on ASU. They can't do it without calling on NASU. That's non-academic staff of universities. They can't do it without calling. Yeah, they might also call the NAS, the National Association of Nigerian Students. So these are pressure groups that they call that they will now discuss together to form these policies. They cannot just drop a policy without consulting these people. So pressure group helps to guide government because these pressure groups are the one feeling the pain. So they will be able to tell the government what the pain is. So they will be able to make policies that are in light without pain. So those are the functions of pressure groups. So I hope we understand before I move to the next one. I hope we understand before I move to the next one. Just one or two persons can reply me and then I move. Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Hi, yes, we understand.
Yes.
I understand.
All right. So I'm moving to the next one, which is the factors that can aid the effective operation of a pressure group. So that means I'm trying to say, what are the things that assist in ensuring that the pressure group achieve their goals? Now, number one, large size or large membership. Now, what are they trying to say? For example, if you're a pressure group of just 10 members, you won't be able to make any effect because you don't have that population. But imagine a pressure group of over 100,000 members. These are people that can affect the government if they take a decision. These are people that can affect the government if they take an action. So large membership is one of the factors that help pressure groups to achieve their aims. Number two, dedication and unity among members. A pressure group can only thrive if they are united and dedicated. That means, for example, if you have, let's say you have a group of friends, you have a group of maybe 5 friends, and everybody respects you people because you people are 5 strong friends. Now all of a sudden there's a fight between 5 of you, and then 2 people move to a side, 3 people move to another side. At that point, people won't respect you guys because there's now division between you people. So that is the idea of pressure group. Once there is unity, there is more respect, and it will help them achieve their goals. But when there's disunity, they won't be able to stand firm and people won't respect them because if they can't unite among themselves, how can they affect the government? So this is one of the things that help to achieve their goals. That is which is dedication and unity. Then we have the third one, availability of adequate funds. Everybody needs money. Even you students, you need money. So also pressure groups needs money. Pressure groups need money to run their things. They need money to influence. They need money to take certain actions. They need money for logistics. They need money for movement and all. So there is need for funds. And once there's adequate funds, they will be able to have an effective operation. Move to the next one. Relevance of its aims and objectives. Pressure groups has to have a relevant aim or a relevant objective. Like, why are you creating this pressure group? What do you want to achieve? Now, once, for example, ASU is created to ensure that the interests of lecturers are protected. Now, that is their aim. And then their objective is to ensure they are well paid, their pension is paid. So these are objectives. So once these aims and objectives are static, they are there, it is recognized, then it would actually promote their operation because everybody knows what their aim and objective is. But if you create a pressure group that does not have an aim or that does not have an objective, it is just there. Okay, what are you people doing? We don't have an aim, we don't have anything. It won't be respected and they won't be effective at all. But once there is a relevant aim and objective, it will definitely be effective. And then the last one, good organization or strategy. Now, everybody, even personally, you need a strategy to be successful. So also pressure groups. Pressure groups need strategy. They need a good organization. What do you mean by organization? Like coming together of different bodies to form a whole. So they need if you check all pressure groups, they always have a cadre, like an hierarchy. So each person knows what they are meant to do. So by each of them doing their duties, they come together to form that force that the government can reckon with. So good organization and strategy is one of the most important factors for effective operation of pressure group. So I hope we understand that. I'm moving to the next one. I hope we understand that. I'm moving to the next one.
Oh, yes, sir.
All right, perfect. So I'm moving to the next one. Wait a second. Okay, this is the opposite of what we just talked about. Factors working against the success of a pressure group. That means what are the things that can affect the success of a pressure group? What are the things that can ensure that the pressure group does not achieve their purpose? Now, number one is small size. If a pressure group is small with very small amount of members, there's every possibility they won't be respected. And if they are not respected, they won't recognize them as people that can influence government decisions. So small size is a very big issue. Number two, lack of dedication among members. For example, let's say a group of 5 or a group of 10, they're all working together to achieve the goal. And then 6 out of them are not even working at all. It's only 4 people that are working. That group will not succeed. They won't move forward. So lack of dedication is one of the things that affects pressure group. If the members are not dedicated, then they can't achieve their goals. Number 3, lack of adequate funds. Once you are broke, even to think well is almost impossible. So when pressure group does not have access to funds, they would be like a baby without food. They keep crying, so they won't be able to focus. So once there is lack of adequate funds, a pressure group will hardly succeed. Number 4, poor leadership. If you put a person that is not strong enough, a person that is not well learned, a person that is not smart enough to lead a pressure group, there's every possibility the pressure group will not stand firm. Because if the leader is not well inclined, then the followers won't know anything. But if the leader is smart, if the leader knows what he's doing, if the leader is fully aware of the aims and objectives and know how to go about it, such a leader will be able to lead the pressure group into achieving their aims and objectives. And then the last one, inadequate political education. Now, if members of the pressure group don't know about their rights, because when we say political education, we're talking about being well inclined, like being learned in aspect of politics. One of the reasons why we teach government is for us to understand everything that has to do with the political setting of a particular country or of the world itself. So if you are not properly educated on your rights, on your responsibilities, on your obligations, you won't know what to do. You won't know when to cross you won't know the line to cross, you won't know the line not to cross. So these are the things. So once you don't have the right political education, it's almost impossible for you to even understand what to do as a pressure group. Do we understand this part?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's move to the next part, which is like one of the most interesting part of pressure group. So techniques employed by pressure group to achieve their goals. So when we say techniques, that means what are the things that pressure groups do to achieve their goals? Now, number one is lobbying. Now, lobbying that word itself is very diverse. Lobbying is more like convincing, like you talk to people in high places, people that can make decisions. You talk to them, you relate with them, and trying to convince them to do your bidding. That's the idea of lobbying. Naturally, lobbying is about talking with people, convincing them. It's just that in recent times, lobbying has been attributed to bribery and corruption. But naturally, lobbying is about convincing people in power to to make decisions that will favor a particular group of people. For example, what I wrote here, pressure groups attempt to lobby influential officials of the state, like the legislature, to make laws or amend laws that will benefit its members. So majorly we know legislature is in charge of law, and we know the executive are the one that will execute law. So these are the main people that are really lobbied. Like they try to convince the legislature to help them make certain laws or amend certain laws to their biddings, and they try to convince the executive to approve those laws. So number one technique they use is lobbying. They try to talk to people to ensure that they're able to they're able to achieve their goals through the laws they make. Then number two, we have demonstration. Now when we say demonstration, a demonstration can be peaceful, it can be violent. A peaceful demonstration is just a simple demonstration, such as probably a peaceful protest where people just walk with placards and no violence. Another example of peaceful demonstration is maybe on a Twitter space where people just talk about probably a particular issue, and they try to convince the government to do something about that issue. Those are examples of peaceful demonstration. But when we say violent demonstration, this is the one that involves violence. This is the one that involves sorry, can we hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry, I had a call. That was right. Sure. Okay, so that is violent. Hold on to my connection is stable. Okay, stable. All right, sorry. I had a call, so I had to wait till the connection is stable. So a case point. I actually found an example. A case in point was one organized by Nigeria Labour Congress against the federal government of Nigeria because of increase in the price of petroleum products in year 2005. That's actually a very long time. I really don't know whether any of you was even around back then. But that time they wanted to increase the price of petrol. So people came out. And NLC actually led a protest to ensure that that price is not increased. So these are examples of demonstration. So we have lobbying, we have demonstration, we have ultimatum. All right, and ultimatum is when you give the government a particular time range to do something. It's just like when you tell the government that okay, in the next 2 weeks, we expect you to do so thing. If you don't do it, we will do so thing. That was what ASU did. ASU gave government, I think, a 3 weeks or a 4 week strike first, warning strike, and they gave them an ultimatum that if they don't answer them in 4 weeks, they would go on another strike. And when they were not answered, they went on another strike. So that's the example of an ultimatum. Then let's move to the next one, propaganda. Propaganda, they said, campaigns are carried out most often by pressure groups, especially when government takes decisions that tend to ignore the interests of their members. So propaganda is like, okay, we probably government does something, and we as a pressure group, we already have a plan for another thing. We want something else. So that is our propaganda. That is what we want to do. So because of that, we launch our campaigns to promote our own propaganda so that the government can understand that this is what we want, not what they did. Are we getting the idea of propaganda? When we say propaganda, propaganda is like what you as a pressure group or what you as a person want. So what you guys want, what you guys will prefer instead of what has been done. So the idea of propaganda is once the government does something that is not cool with a particular pressure group, they tend to launch campaigns, they tend to launch different kind of circulars, sensitization in order to inform the government. Sorry, someone should mute their mic. I'm hearing some voices I don't know. So that is the idea of propaganda. And then protest letters. Now, protest letters is like writing a letter to the government, informing them that what they actually did is not something that you want as a pressure group. It's not something that is in line with the interest of the pressure group. So you write letters to them to let them understand that you want something else, not what has been done by them. So that's the idea of protest letters. You are writing a letter to protest the decision of the government. So that is all about techniques employed by pressure groups to achieve their goals. So let's move to the next one. Dangers posed by the activities of the pressure groups. That means what are the negative what are the negative? There are certain pressure groups in Nigeria that if they decide to go on strike action, they would cripple the economy. They will cripple the country as a whole. For example, if NLC goes on strike, they will cripple the economy. If New Pen goes on strike, I've forgotten the full meaning of NEPENG, but they're in charge of petroleum products. So if they go, I think they're in charge of movement of petroleum products and all. If they go on strike, they would cripple the whole economy. And once they cripple the economy and the government can't function, the whole government becomes unstable. So that's the idea of political instability. When certain pressure groups make certain decisions, it tends to affect the political setting of a state or a country, therefore, and therefore causing political instability. Let's move to the second one, social disorder. Now, when we say social disorder, it simply means when there is I don't want to use the word anarchy. When there is should I call it maybe disagreement, or should I say violence in the society? For example, if a pressure group launches a protest and then the protest is being hijacked by violent people, it tends to cause social disorder because people will start fighting, people will start killing each other, and before you know it, the reason why the protest was even called for will not be achieved. So that's the idea of social disorder. Then we have the third one, misrepresentation of public opinion. Now, what are we trying to say? The pressure group are a representation of a large number of people. So, for example, the Nigerian Medical Association, the National Medical Association, they're in charge of representing the medical practitioners. But there are certain times in which the leaders of this pressure group, they go to the government with their own personal objective, not the objectives of the pressure group itself. So if they go with their personal agenda, they would, instead of them to represent the public that they are meant to represent, they will be representing their own personal agenda. So one of the dangers posed by activities of the pressure group is misrepresentation of public opinion. That is, when you are instead of you to represent what the public wants, you are actually representing something else entirely, maybe for your personal desire or something. Then we have the fourth one, misinformation of the general public. Now, when we say misinformation of the general public, pressure groups tend to hold meetings with the government, and many times is these pressure groups that will come on social media or that will come on mass media to inform us of what the government said. Now, there can be times in which these pressure groups will come on social media or mass media to tell us something slightly different from what government said, or something that the way they said it, it made we as a public misinterpret what they said. Now, if the public is misinformed, there tends to be reaction. And once there's a reaction, it will cause anarchy in the country, because now the government said something, but the people heard another thing entirely. This can actually cause violence. This can cause big issues in the country. Then we have the fourth one, corruption of public officials through lobbying. When I was explaining lobbying, I told you that these days lobbying has been attributed to corruption, has been attributed to bribery. So in the bid of certain pressure groups to influence the decision of the government, instead of them to just lobby, like they should talk to these people, let them see reasons why they want these things to be done. Instead, they pay these people, they pay these government officials, they give them money, they give them things that on the normal day they are not meant to give them, therefore causing these government officials to be corrupt. So instead of them to even promote public interest, they are actually causing corruption in the government. So, and then the last part is strike action may affect the nation economy. A, a an obvious example of strike action is ASU strike. ASU has been on strike for roughly 2 months now, or over, yeah, roughly 2 months now. And the universities has been closed. People that work, example, people that sell things in the universities, now they can't make any income because the universities are closed. Hostels, people that are rent out hostels, they can't make any income because universities has been closed. So strike action tend to affect the nation's economy. If NLC strikes today and labor goes on strike, all workers sit at home. All these people that drive buses or that they drive public transport, they won't see anybody to carry. Hence, they won't make their money. it will even affect the whole economy because people won't buy things among other things. So these are the dangers posed by activities of the pressure group. Do we understand? Very much the thing second to the last part. Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is the last part, which is very straightforward. The difference between pressure group and political parties. Remember last week we talked about party system, and this week we are talking about pressure group. Now let's quickly run through it. We only have 6 more minutes. So pressure group, the first difference is pressure group have the aims of influencing government policies, while political parties have the aim of what controlling political power. So what political parties are after is to control power. That means to be in power. That means to be in government. That is what political parties are after. But pressure group are not after that. Pressure group just wants to influence the decision of anybody that is in government. Political parties want the power of the government. They want political power. Why pressure group only want to influence government policies? That is number one. Number two, pressure groups are interested in affairs of their members, while political parties tend to fight for the interests of the public. Now, from the definition of democracy, which is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, we should understand that when it comes to having a political power or obtaining political power, you are meant to represent the interests of their representation is limited to their members. For example, the medical association is limited to medical practitioners. Labor Congress is limited to workers. ICANN is limited to accountants. The Nigeria Bar Association is limited to lawyers. So unlike pressure group that their representation is limited to their members, political parties representation is general. That means to the whole public. Then the third one, membership of pressure group is restricted to interest groups, while political parties membership is open to the rich and poor. Now, what are we trying to say? For pressure group, there will be certain rules, there will be certain requirements for you to join them. For ICANN now, for ICANN, you must be an ACA. That means you must have passed certain examination for you to join ICANN. Now that is their own rule to joining it, and you must be a chartered accountant for you to join ICANN. But political parties, we have different people joining political parties. If you look at APC, PDP, you have numerous people, educated, not educated, all of them are part of political parties. Number four, political parties have their manifestos or program of actions, while pressure group have no manifestos or guiding principles to their action. Now, I want us to understand this very clearly. I would explain it so you won't make a mistake with it. Now, when we say political parties have manifestos, I explained what manifesto is in the last class. That's the roadmap of what the political party wants to do when they get into power. So they actually have a roadmap. They have a documented activity or a documented program that they want to do when they get into power. But when it comes to pressure group, they don't have these static things that they want to achieve. Instead, they go with the trend of government. If government make a decision now and it does not favor them, they tend to go and meet the government and they tend to change it. So it's not as if they don't actually have what they want to do, but it's not static. It's not static. So the idea of pressure group is they actually work with trend. They work with whatever the government does. That's why, unlike political parties that they have their agenda, maybe 7-point agenda, they have their manifesto. The pressure group only they work with the government. So they work with the trend. Whatever the government show at them will determine how they will respond. So do we understand that point? Because it's a little bit confusing. So I want to be sure you understand the point. Do you? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you understand that point?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
All right. Thank you. So I'm moving to the next one. Political parties conduct elections to select their members into offices, while pressure group does not conduct election. What are we trying to say. Political parties, they conduct something they call primaries. Primaries is what they use to select their candidates. Also, they also conduct certain in-house elections to select certain key positions in their political parties. But for pressure group, majorly pressure group appoints. They don't elect, they appoint. That means they look at the member that is okay, that is smart, that is a leader, and they put him there. So that is what they do. So that is the difference. Unlike political parties that they do elections, pressure group appoint. They don't elect, they appoint. And then the last one, which is political parties conduct their affairs openly, while pressure groups indulge themselves in hide and seek games. Now, unlike political parties that they are everything they do is open. If APC makes a decision today, we all hear it on social media. If PDP makes a decision today, we all hear it on social media. But if ICANN makes a decision today, it's only their members that will know. If NMA makes a decision today, only their members that will know. So these are the differences between political parties and pressure group. So we have just 1 minute for questions. So do you have any questions before I call it a day? Do you have any question? Hello?
Yes, sir. My question is that the political party conducts election to select their members. I don't understand this very well.
All right. When I say political parties conduct election, for example, we have a lot of people in a political party. So for them to choose a president, there might be like 5 people that want to be a president in a political party. So they cannot filter out those five people. Instead, they have to do an election among themselves to pick one person that will represent the political party. Do you understand that?
Okay.
All right, perfect. So I think that's all. So my assignments, list 10 pressure groups, that's very straightforward. So thank you for attending the class and have a nice day.